Hello, welcome to The Rational Live. I'm your host, David Dole. Today is going to be a bit of a shorter show than normal. I'm not feeling great. I don't have the virus. I haven't even been outside in like 6 days. I think that's the reason I don't feel well. I have a headache, and I don't have my throat isn't hurting or anything. I just have a bad headache, and I have anxiety. It's just not. I can't do a 3-hour stream feeling this way. But with that said, I do have a few stories to cover, and I will also be taking your chats. And I know Super Chat has a stupid limit, but I don't know. I want to be able to hear people's stories as well. I know it's a lot tougher to write that in the amount of characters you have. But if you're somehow able to share, maybe what you're going through or your experience, that's something I wouldn't mind hearing either. All right. Before anything, let me remind everybody, if you're doing okay, if you can, support the show, therationalnational.com/join. Right now, independent media is taking a bit of a hit because of basically every coronavirus story that we do is getting either demonetized or it can even be pulled down, which is, to me, the worst, because you could spend hours on a video only to have YouTube pull it down, and there goes all that work. So if you can support the show, do it. If you can't, don't worry. I know it's tough times right now, but let me prep this first story here, because this is a long one. This is a long story. I'm sure you've heard a bit about it by now, at least through headlines, but hopefully I can break it down here in a way that you will be able to easily understand. I wonder if my audio is even working right now. I'm not sure if it is. But give me half a second here. More than half a second. But all right, I'll go through this as I do it. There's a lot of this story has a ton of links, so I don't want to sit here just clicking all these links before I go. I'll just do it as I'm reporting. All right. All right, that's what I'll do. Actually, before I go anywhere, since I saw a super chat, the proletariat must rise says Bernie has the best. Sorry. You could tell my head's not here. Bernie has the base, thus leverage, but it's only leverage if the DNC and establishment cared who wins in the general primary. In the Gen Prime. E.g. fighting Trump for... Sorry, this is really hard to read because of all the short forms. Bernie has the base, thus leverage, but it's only leverage if the DNC establishment cared who wins in the general. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But Biden cares if he wins. So even if you want to make the argument that, I don't know, Nancy Pelosi doesn't care, or not even that, but it's really about the money behind the Democratic Party. If they don't care, Joe Biden still wants to win. So Bernie Sanders still has leverage in that sense. All right. Of course, there's a giant friggin' ad in the first link I want to show you for Fast and the Furious. All right, I got rid of it. Oh, this story's crazy. Just evil people exist everywhere, and especially in government. So while the coronavirus was still something that much of the public was not taking seriously, there are at least a couple Republican senators, and potentially a lot more, that benefited off the crisis that they knew was coming. So this story it keeps evolving because it isn't just about the two senators I'm focusing on now. There are others implicated in this, but I'm going to be focusing on Republican Senator Richard Burr and Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler. Now, let me first show you the top headline here on exactly what went on. Republican senators quietly dumped stocks after classified coronavirus briefings, even as Trump officials were urging Americans to buy into the market. So, as I go through this, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. These senators, look, this story, as I'm shooting this live, maybe it's evolved to the point where they're actually being forced out, but it is disgusting what they did. So just the top line here. As the stock market dipped in late February in response to the coronavirus crisis, Trump and his top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, were urging confidence in the markets. Kudlow told Fox Business on the 28th that there was no indication the coronavirus would skyrocket in the U.S. Quote, stocks look pretty cheap to me, he added at the time. Only weeks earlier, two Republican senators had dumped investments after allegedly receiving briefings that the crisis would be worse than the White House was then admitting. So first, let me focus on Richard Burr. So he is the senator from North Carolina. This story is disgusting. So this was broken by the Center for Responsive Politics. So this was their initial report on it. North Carolina's GOP Senator Richard Burr told the public he was confident the government can fight off COVID-19, the same time he and his wife sold up to about 1.5 million stock in major corporations that ended up losing most of their value during the coronavirus pandemic. So let me give you a little more here, because as I told you, this looks worse and worse the more information I give you. So this is the perfect visual for exactly what Senator Burr did. So as John Ossoff tweeted out, here's where the GOP chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Richard Burr, dumped stock. So you can see here, in private briefings, he knew exactly what was coming, was not warning the public, pretending everything was fine, dumps his stock, and then the market crashes weeks later. So as I told you, there's a lot to this. Here's a timeline that breaks it down well. This is from Aaron Blake. January 24th, Senate gets private briefing on coronavirus. February 7th, Burr op-ed says U.S. is better prepared than ever before. So he wrote an op-ed saying the U.S. is prepared for this while he knew that this was coming. The 12th, Dow hits all-time high. February 13th, Burr sells 628,000 to 1.7 million in stock. The 27th, Burr privately compares coronavirus to 1918 flu. Again, this is privately he's doing this. He's not telling the public how serious this is, even still, after he sold his stock. And this evolves even further. One more piece here. The 25th, Azar says of another private Senate briefing, Chairman Burr asked that briefing be held at the top secret level. So he wanted to ensure this information was kept secret. Now, another piece of this that's worth mentioning here. In 2012, Senator Richard Burr, who sold stock before the pandemic, voted against banning insider trading for Congress. I believe he was one of 4 senators who did that. These people got into politics to benefit themselves. If they are allowed to hold their seats, then what the hell is this? Like, why do these positions even exist? If all they are there is to, if the only reason they are there is to know exactly when to dump and buy stock. But of course, there's more. Let me get now to Kelly Loeffler. Close some of these windows, actually. All right. Senator Kelly Loeffler sold between 1.2 million and 3.1 million worth of stock in 3 weeks, beginning on January 24th, the day of a closed-door all-senator briefing on the coronavirus. Here's a Loeffler tweet from the 28th. Democrats have dangerously and intentionally misled the American people on coronavirus readiness. Here's the truth. Donald Trump and his administration are doing a great job working to keep Americans healthy and safe. This is after she dumped that stock, knew this was coming, saying, oh, it's going to be fine. No, don't worry about anything. These people are disgusting. There's a quote here, actually, in this that I want to share. Here it is. So the full scope of Loeffler's portfolio and its particular holdings is not yet known. Senators are required to regularly disclose information. But in January, she requested an extension from Senate ethics officials. A full accounting of her finances will not be public until May. Why would she be requesting an extension already? Also worth mentioning here, Kelly Loeffler's net worth is almost $500 million. She's the wealthiest member of Congress. And as Tim Tagaris notes here, it just isn't enough. But there's more. Not only is she the wealthiest member of Congress, also, she is married to Jeffrey Spechter, whatever his name is, the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange and the chairman and CEO of Intercontinental Exchange, which is the New York Stock Exchange's parent company. These people are so disgusting. So disgusting. I want to share some reactions here from others online. This person, Forever Never Trump. So senators who apparently personally enriched themselves to the tune of millions of dollars because they knew a major crisis was coming will be determining if the rest of us receive $1,000. Let me add there, a measly $1,000. And by the way, at least Burr, I'm not sure about Loeffler. I know Burr at least voted against the relief bill. Another piece, or another reaction. Ilhan Omar says there needs to be 2 open Senate seats by the morning. No excuses. We will see if that happens. That was yesterday. I imagine they're not out yet. But again, going to have to wait and see what happens there. One last reaction here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Members of Congress should not be allowed to own individual stock. This is really what it comes down to. Like, what they did is disgusting, horrible, and they should be out. But why the hell are they allowed to supposedly work in the interests of the public while then being able to profit off of that based on the moves that they are making, based on the knowledge that they have? It's completely insane. She goes on here, we are here to serve the public, not to profiteer. It's shocking that it's even been allowed up to this point. You got to imagine this is gonna end. Like, a moment like this, a crisis like this, and you see how these, I'm trying to not swear here, see how these horrible people in Congress profiteer off of this. There's a huge spotlight now on this kind of behavior. And this is something you have to imagine is going to have to end at some point. This is disgusting that it was even allowed to go on to begin with. But having a moment like this, I mean, if there's any silver lining at all, is that there's now a spotlight on how disgusting it is that you can have public officials benefit off of the knowledge that they have while telling the public something different. Just fucking gross. There goes the swearing. All right. Pushing through this headache right now. Lots of water. I should probably have taken some Tylenol, but I don't have any, and I don't want to go out. It is just I mean, I need fresh air. Clearly I do, because I don't feel great. But I am in the city. So I'm afraid to even go in the elevator in my apartment and leave, because I don't want, who knows who jumps in that elevator with me. Like, you can't keep 2 meters away from people when you're stuck in an elevator with them. And I don't have a mask. Yeah. You can understand why maybe I have stayed in this apartment too long, but at some point I got to get out. All right, let me take some of these super chats before I go on to the next story here. Polyfufu says it has been a downer of a week. I had to take a break from the news for a bit. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you, Polly. Yeah, it has definitely been a downer. I hear you there. Mateus N says, insane that it took a plague for politicians to realize social safety nets are a good idea. Here's some kroners. They are now unfortunately worthless. Nothing's worthless. No, thank you, Mateus. Thank you so much. Buddy Nayer says, time to invest in guillotines. Samantha Sider. I should have added to that piece. Those people have to go to prison. Like, that's the bare minimum for them, is going to prison. Samantha Sider says, support independent media in these dark times. Thank you, Samantha. Appreciate the support. All right. Don't worry, we got more. I also got, look, if we got time and I feel well enough, I will show you a hilarious rant from a lady who was at the grocery store. If you haven't seen it, it's worth staying for that. It's pretty funny. But we'll get there. Let me first go to, let me go to old Joe Biden. That's my next story. Old Joe. What's Joe doing? Well, we'll get into that, if he's doing anything at all. All right. Frickin' Joe Biden. So while we have a very high approval ratings for Donald Trump right now in polling based on his response to the crisis, people appear to like Donald Trump and his response, even though it doesn't go nearly far enough and there really isn't anything in concrete yet. Part of the reason why people are happy with Trump in this moment is because there is no actual opposition to him. Joe Biden, who was supposed to be the nominee, he's the presumptive nominee anyways, he's been completely absent for the past 2 days. Since he won those 3 states on Tuesday, he's been nowhere. And he's barely even tweeted about anything. So let me show you what Bernie Sanders, before I show you something Joe Biden recently tweeted about, the one thing he has done, which is not good, but we'll get to that. Let me show you Bernie Sanders. He has an entire emergency response to the coronavirus pandemic. So it's detailed. I mean, there's a video address that, let's see this, an hour long video address. He's doing another live stream tonight. It's Friday right now. He's doing a live stream tonight. Again, a roundtable discussion about the virus and the response. Then he has a whole breakdown here. Empower Medicare to lead healthcare response. Establish an emergency economic crisis finance agency to manage the economic crisis. Look up, like, detailed response here. Create an oversight agency to fight corporate corruption and price gouging. And he's also, I don't have the link here, but he's also right now raising money for 5 different charities that are doing good work during this pandemic using his email list. So using Bernie's massive email list and text messaging contacts, he's messaging out to everybody to donate to 5 charities right now that are helping in this pandemic. Joe Biden, here's something Joe Biden tweeted today. I am calling on every CEO in America to publicly commit now to not buying back their company stock over the course of the next year. As workers face the physical and economic consequences of the coronavirus, our corporate leaders cannot cede responsibility for their employees. Oh, calling to, yes, CEOs, you must publicly commit to not buying back your company stock for the next year. He can't even go far enough to say forever. Just no, the next year. Yeah, CEOs. The one thing about CEOs that we all know is that they're honest. Very honest people. When they commit something publicly, they stick to it. Just like his good friend Mike Bloomberg, who has endorsed Joe Biden. Here's what Mike Bloomberg did. Story broke just minutes after Joe Biden tweeted this. From Mara Barrett here of NBC. Mike Bloomberg is scrapping his plan to fund an independent expenditure campaign to support the Democratic nominee. Instead, he's laying off his staff and transferring only $18 million to the DNC. I say only because that's nothing for Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg had promised to employ people that worked for him, worked for his campaign up until November. regardless of if he won the nomination or not. Publicly, Michael Bloomberg said that. You will have a job up until the end of the year. And now what's happening? Scrapping that idea. All those people in the middle of a crisis, out of a job, not getting paid. But, he'll send the DNC a bribe of $18 million. CEOs, honest and trustworthy. And guess what? They all back Joe Biden. Another honest and trustworthy man who lied again and again and again during the debate. This is why even if Joe Biden, evolves his platform to maybe include some of Bernie's ideas, how could anybody possibly trust Joe Biden on his word? He lies all the time, and the people that back him lie all the time. So look, I'm going to continue having videos discussing what people should do at this point. Keep in mind, I know it's long shot, but Bernie could still win the primary. Half the states haven't voted, but he would have to dominate all the upcoming states. There's no more voting states, I believe, for at least 3 more weeks. So it's still a while till we see any of those primaries. Anything is possible. But it's just amazing that Joe Biden, who was supposed to be, who's the presumptive nominee, is nowhere to be found in this time where leadership is needed most to expose the Trump administration and how they are not going far enough. All right. Incredible that man is the nominee, or supposed to be the nominee at some point. Just no leadership at all. Somebody on Twitter mentioned today, I think it was Ben Dixon, said, did Democrats forget how to hold press conferences? Like, where have they been? Where have they been? And when they have talked to the media, is to say, Republicans want to give too much money to people. No, can't have a UBI. It's got to be means tested, which they end up doing essentially anyways, as I'm going to get to in a minute. But it's just really disgusting. There is no leadership right now except for Bernie Sanders, who's leading, as I showed you, in terms of what a response should look like. All right, let me get some super chats here. I'm super appreciate all the support in the super chats. Really, like it's hard times right now for everybody. So I know it's not easy to give, but I appreciate it. Tanya A says, how is the lockdown in all Canada? It's going well. I don't know. I mean, how well can it really go? Every day there are new people with more cases, but we're at the very least we're testing more people per capita than Americans are right now, and we have less cases. So testing more and we have less people infected. So that's a pretty good sign. At the same time, it's just this is something that it's never ending. Like, we're not going to see an end to this in the foreseeable future anyways. And a vaccine is going to take at least a year to 18 months. Like, there goes the summer. For people that live in Canada or people that live in cold climates that wait all year for it to get warm, May, June, July, August. If we're going to be stuck having to avoid people all summer, Jesus Christ, like just a complete waste of a year. And it's sad. This is something that clearly nobody was ready for. Not in terms of, people personally, but also in terms of governments. Nobody was just prepared for anything like this. Junie McGrath appears to be quoting Jimmy Dore here, saying, everyone is at fault except Tulsi. I have not seen Jimmy's response to that, so I'm not gonna comment on it as I haven't seen his response. Mike Z says Trump wants to bail out the people. If he succeeds, he will be unbeatable in November. If the election still happens, anyway. I'll gladly vote for him. You'll gladly vote for Trump? No. Don't be fooled by the propaganda. Like I had a video where Trump is like borrowing Bernie's ideas, but it's not going anywhere near as far. And in many cases, they are. For months, Trump was downplaying this was even going to be a problem, and now he's saying, "Oh, the whole time I saw it, pandemic. We all knew the pandemic was coming." Like, give me a fucking break. And they appear to be increasing sanctions on Iran, and I mean, the people there are just fucking dying at an alarming rate, and the response from the U.S. is good. I'm glad all your civilians are dying. Like, it's fucking gross. So don't you fucking dare vote for Trump. It would be disgusting. Like, I get not wanting to vote for Biden. I get it. Then stay home or vote down ballot for Democrats. But, and even just the cultural impact alone that Trump has, the fact that anybody would vote for a fucking racist piece of shit like Donald Trump, you should be ashamed of yourself. Kim Stribling says peppermint oil is good for headaches. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you, Kim. Again, something I would need to leave the house to get, but at some point I will have to. IR Nerdy Girl says, this is a two-part super chat. Medicare for all argument has never been stronger. People in my community that have been laid off in manufacturing business are now starting to receive letters in the mail from insurance providers. 2 of 2 stating that they do not meet the monthly hours to continue their benefits. They are urged to seek COBRA Act coverage, which means you pay full price for your insurance, which can be $500 a month. Yeah, I'm going to have a bit of a mini story that relates to healthcare coming up in the U.S. And just, if you have healthcare tied to your employer, and now there's estimates that at least 20% of people are going to be unemployed, how's that working out? So stupid. What a dumb system. You have to move to Medicare for all. One person was charged $35,000 for coronavirus treatment. Ridiculous. Zachary Fluke, Super Chat says, and we were supposed to disavow Joe Rogan's endorsement while the DNC and Biden enthusiastically enjoy Bloomberg's endorsement. Ghouls, the lot of them. Yep. Yeah, that's what that came up when Bloomberg backed Joe Biden. A lot of people brought up the fact that when Joe Rogan said, "I will probably vote for Bernie Sanders in the primary," or I think he said, "I think I'll vote for Bernie in the primary," and then the Bernie campaign just put that into a video. Blow up, media freak out. Oh my God, Joe Rogan, the guy that said one thing that was kind of offensive once. Oh my God, I can't believe that he backed Bernie Sanders. But you have fucking Michael Bloomberg. A history of stop and frisk. A history of, and now laying off all these people he promised would have jobs till the end of the year. He's backed Biden. Crickets. Mainstream media is garbage. I think that's been obvious for a while. Okay. All right. This is kind of my last story, since I don't know what's going on. Like, I think it's anxiety, but I've had chest pains for a while, and they're up and down. Like, it's not serious, but it's enough to impact my work, especially when you add it with this headache. It's not a fun combination, but I'm going to cover this. Oh, and I'm also going to show you that video that I want to show as well. But first, so unemployment all around the world, including, of course, in the U.S., is expected to exceed 2008 levels. But by how much, you have to see this graph. So this is crazy. This is from Department of Labor and Goldman Sachs. Goldman predicts that over 2 million people are going to file for unemployment benefits this week. So this is just people filing for unemployment benefits. You can barely see the 2008 crisis on this chart. So let me click this. You know what? I'm going to go smaller here. This is what I'll do. So you can really take a look at this. Look at this. So this is a forecast for this week. Look, like this is comical and how absurd this is, because this is the crisis we are in. And we're about here, I guess, is 2008. So that's where it went up, around maybe 700,000 people filing for unemployment. And now 2.5 million people right here in a week. Now, this reminds me, as I was mentioning in a super chat that I just read before the story, that when you have healthcare tied to your employer, what do you think this does when you have these many people now out of work and filing for unemployment? Where's the health insurance? Even people that have great health insurance, if you happen to be in one of those jobs where you have great employer health insurance, well, it's gone. A single payer system, if it wasn't obvious before, it should be obvious now. That is the direction that the U.S. needs to go. A single payer system puts everybody onto the same plan. You have complete freedom of choice when it comes to doctor. Again, lose your job, you still have the same health care, the same doctor. You can go anywhere, any walk-in clinic, get help, because it's a single payer system. You're all on the same plan. You could maybe leave now most people aren't going to leave their job, but in a normal situation, you could leave your job, maybe go back to school, maybe start a business, hire people. They have health care. You don't have to guarantee it to them. It's guaranteed to them through a single payer system. Endless benefits to a single payer system. Never worrying about cost ever for anything. So I live in a single payer system. I know how this works. I've gone to the doctor many times. I walk in, show my health card, see my doctor, leave. That's it. No other transactions. No talking to an insurance company. Nothing. I had surgery once. Same thing. It's planned ahead of time. Had like a sheet of paper to fill out. Got my surgery on the day of the surgery. Leave. That's it. Nothing. Like it's weight off your back. It's something you never have to think about until you need it. I don't know how anybody, let alone like Democrats, Joe Biden, saying just a couple weeks ago, on the verge of this pandemic, or while this pandemic was just starting, or just had been considered to be a pandemic, saying that Joe Biden saying he would veto Medicare for all if it hit his desk. If it passed the House and the Senate, he would veto Medicare for all. That's the Democratic presumptive nominee saying that. Completely insane. How anybody can still argue against a single payer system, the only reason they would is because they make money off the current system. And the mask is off now. You're in this crisis. We're in this pandemic. If you still have anybody arguing against a Medicare for all system, you know why they have that position. They are somehow making money off the current system. That's the only explanation. So it's just completely disgusting. And again, we are only getting started. This is the beginning of the crisis. So who knows how much worse it's going to get. Okay. I got the grocery store rant for you. And then I'll end on the this rant's great. And then I'll end on super chats. So Ben Dixon posted this one, but it's initially posted by Squash Your Fear. So I'm not even necessarily sure who the lady is, but this is great. I'm going to go down here as I show you because it is hilarious. So watch this lady discuss her grocery store experience. Actually, this is not even a good... Maybe I shouldn't be on screen if I can get off screen. Here we go.
Middle-aged woman, And up until today, I have managed to not ever have to do a middle-aged woman. And up until today, I have managed to not ever have to do a rant video on Facebook, but apparently today is my day. Just left the grocery store, and as we all know, the coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever we're calling it this week, has driven people completely insane. And the woman in line in front of me, just apropos of nothing, just starts shrieking at the poor little guy ringing her up that he has just touched his face and that he therefore must wash his hands. Just shrieking this to the top of her lungs, so I'm assuming she surely to God must be the head of the CDC because she says it with such conviction. And by the way, lady, you're not supposed to touch your face. Doesn't really matter so much if he touches his. I digress. The little guy says, I can't wash my hands right now. She says, I'll wait. Great, well, I'll wait, I guess, lady. He says, I have hand sanitizer. So he takes like a quarter of a little squirt, does his little thing on his hands for about a quarter of a second, which basically would have just served to incite a riot and maybe kill off 2 small, weak germs, to which the head of the CDC in her kitten-covered lab coat nods and fervently agrees that he's, saved the universe with that. He kind of refrains from rolling his eyes, which I think makes him a saint. And then she goes on to whip out her credit card and use the debit pad that every finger-licking, booger-picking, double-digit IQ idiot has touched all day long after going to the bathroom and not washing their hands. And then she just walks on out with her groceries, completely oblivious to the fact that everyone who handled those groceries prior to her getting them has left their little touch and trace of germs all over them. That going down the conveyor belt, they probably picked up chicken juice and everything else. But thank God that kid used that quarter of a squirt of Purell. She has saved the day and kept us all safe from the coronavirus. Y'all, it doesn't matter what we do. There's so many stupid people in this world. We're never going to survive anyway. So touch your face. Just touch it. Just touch it. It's all that's left.
All right. That lady's great. Obviously, don't touch your face. But this is a reminder. Be kind to people. Like, the people that right now that have to work still, people in grocery stores, doctors, medical professionals, nurses, whoever is still, like, people that have to work because of what's going on. Be kind to them. Like, just imagine the kind of shit that these grocery store clerks are going through. These cashiers are going through. Like, you have to be kind to people. I know understand we are all going through a crisis right now. We all have anxiety about all this crap, but there is no need to treat people like shit. So just keep that in mind, because it's not going to, like, your shitty attitude to people that are helping you, whether it's at the grocery store or wherever, like, it's not going to help. So be kind to people. All right. That's good for me. I'm going to read off some chats here. Cult's Finger, thank you for your super chat. Parker R says, I really hope that all of these senators, Feinstein included, go to prison. Guillotine time. Love you and your show. Yeah, so Feinstein is also implicated in that, but so I haven't read the story on her yet, but I'm also seeing that hers isn't as direct and obvious and disgusting as Burr and Loeffler. So I don't know though. Like, I got no love for Feinstein. Whatever. But I was seeing even Glenn Greenwald come to her defense because Fox News had put her in the headline and didn't put Richard Burr or Loeffler in the headline, but acted like it was all about Feinstein. So if you got Glenn Greenwald coming to Feinstein's defense, then I can't imagine what she did was nearly as bad as the other senators. Joe Krockenberg says all these Trump lovers all of a sudden socialists. Yeah, it is funny. I mean, I did a video on it earlier this week. Donald Trump turning to Bernie Sanders ideas to help people. But again, in part, in case you missed earlier, there's a lot Trump is doing as well that is disgusting. So it's not like Trump is now a big socialist. Where was I? JCG Irvin says my wife never gets sick. She and her two friends came down with the same symptoms. All of the coronavirus symptoms, none of them were able to get testing here in North Carolina. Jesus. Tex US Progressive says, I've had COBRA because the ACA let me stay on my parents' insurance after I turned 26 2 years ago. I pay effing $550 a month. A young, healthy 28-year-old. Wow. Just a ridiculous system. I can't imagine if I had to pay that in health insurance every month. Like, it should always be based on your taxes, on how much you make, so it scales properly. And of course, all the other benefits to a single payer system. Samantha Sider says you can use dish towels as DIY masks. Can I? I guess. How would I tie it around my face, though? I have to look that. I'm sure I can look up DIY masks and make one. Deborah Van Sant. No bread, toilet paper, barely any meat, no alcohol or peroxide. I went to the grocery store yesterday. I plan to vote Green Party for president, down ballot for Democrats. I hear that. Christopher Idarola, thank you for your super chat. Sable Miner, thank you for your super chat. West Crosby, thank you. Junie McGraw, libertarians are mighty quiet about this crisis. They sure are. Ain't it funny? Ain't it funny? All of a sudden, it seems like maybe government is necessary, at the very least. Yet they have no argument, but they never did. It's just more obvious now. John O'Shea says, hi, David. Hello. Jim Parker says, set YouTube to 480 to save bandwidth. Save bandwidth? For YouTube or for me? I have a really good connection. I have a fiber connection, so I don't got to worry about bandwidth. It's always the same. It's fiber. I'm not sure how fiber is even affected. Like, I don't think it is affected in the same way that other types of connections are. But I'm no expert. That the last one? All right. I think so. Though I just heard a noise signaling that I just don't want to miss anybody. I think that's it. All right. Sorry. I may do another live stream tomorrow. I don't know. I'm just not feeling great. There are other stories that I collected throughout the week that I definitely wanted to get to, that I just never, or that I just don't have the opportunity to go through. But, oh shit, I'm so dumb. There's one big story I missed. I thought I missed something. Told you I'm not in there. All right, one big story left. What am I talking about? Huge story. One of the major stories. Is comparing U.S. benefits to Canadian benefits. I don't know how I forgot that. Yeah, I think I need a nap or something. All right, so I will do this. Just setting it up. It did feel like the stream was going way too quickly. All right, I'll just start. Now that we have a better idea of what US and Canadian relief benefits look like, I want to compare the two. Now, this is not everything in terms of the response from the U.S. and Canada to their citizens, but this is a more of a focus on the direct money that people are able to receive during this crisis. So first, I want to give you kind of the overview on the American response here, the Trump response. So Senate GOP direct cash payments proposal as part of phase 3 of coronavirus relief funding. So this is NBC News Politics breaking this down. People that make $75,000 and under based on 2018 tax return, which, I mean, that alone, like using that as a basis is pretty stupid, but that's what they're doing. So if you made $75K and under in 2018, $1,200 for individual, $2,400 for a couple filing jointly. Now, my understanding, I looked a lot into this. My understanding is this is just one time. This is a one-time payment. This is not like a UBI where it's like a monthly thing. This is just one-time payments, which does not seem like enough if that's the case. If you made 75K to 99K, it scales down from 1,200. If you made over 99K, no payments, which I got to say is kind of weird. Like, people that make over 99K still are going to need help here. So it's weird that they would like it's good to have, of course, money for people that are making under 100K, but people over 100K, I mean, depending where you live, you can live in New York City, and 99K is not enough to own property. So you could be renting while making 99K a year, and now people have no income. Seems kind of weird. And also adds $500 per child. Okay, so this is about more direct cash payments. There's also a moratorium on mortgage payments. I believe I'm not sure the timing on that. It may be for 6 months, but nothing concrete as far as I've seen for renters. Again, it's weird how people like. I understand in many cases it's hard to dictate what property owners do, but at the same time, it's not. Like, there are other countries that are putting a suspension on rent payments and utility bills and that kind of thing. So there should be more in that sense. But let me show you Canada's response. So this is a little more information here than I really want to focus on, but and I'll get deeper into these stats. So I'm going to give you a bigger breakdown on what Canada is doing, as a lot of you in America likely already kind of understand what's happening there. But I want to make this direct comparison to Canada. So this is more of an overview here. So there's $82 billion being pumped into the response for this crisis. So $2 billion to boost to Canada Child Benefit, $900 biweekly for emergency care benefit for up to 15 weeks, $5 billion emergency support benefit for unemployed without EI benefits. Again, I'll get deeper into what all this stuff is. 6-month interest-free moratorium on Canada student loan payments. So this is very important. I'm not positive. I think I believe it's at least been discussed, putting a pause on student loan payments in the U.S. as well. But we should be looking at canceling student debt. But that's a whole other discussion. 10% wage subsidy for small businesses, deferred tax payments until after August 31st, which a lot of people will like to see that. Increased GST credit to $300 and $150 per child, and boost funding for shelters where self-isolating is not an option. All right, I'm going to give you a little more info here. So, Government of Canada provide emergency care benefit package for people who do not qualify for EI. Includes people who are ill. Actually, there's more to this before I get to that. That's right. So, yeah, CBC News reports here. Government of Canada to provide emergency care benefit package for people who do not qualify for EI. Includes people who are ill, who have to self-isolate, or are caring for someone with COVID-19. Payments will be delivered every 2 weeks and lasts for 14 weeks. So these are ongoing payments. This isn't like a one-time payment like what the U.S. has right now. It's ongoing payments. And important to mention here, I already had that open. Canada's coronavirus relief package includes an emergency care benefit for those who don't qualify for EI, as I was just saying, or can't take sick leave, so that includes gig workers, freelancers, part-timers, and cultural workers. Yeah, so that's why I brought this up. If you don't have a typical job where, you work for a big company, you were laid off, but you are in the gig economy, freelancer, part-timer, you are still able to apply for EI benefits, as they've been expanded to count as emergency benefits. There is more, though. So let me give you more specifics on exactly how much Canadians would be able to get right here. So there's a great breakdown on cbc.ca. If you just look this up, how to apply for EI and COVID-19 emergency benefits, you'll find it. But right here, if approved, the maximum amount paid out for EI is $573 a week. So $573 a week is the maximum you can get, and that's approximately $2,292 a month. And again, that would last for, I guess, up to 14 weeks, is what it sounds like. But again, these things are always evolving. We imagine if the crisis goes on longer, you'll be able to continue receiving these sorts of payments for a longer period of time. So I think for most people that would be a good chunk of money to be able to sustain themselves, be able to buy food, pay rent if they still got to pay rent, other bills potentially. And let me also show you this, because it's going to really put a strain on the system. Like it's going to put the system to the test, because Prime Minister says the government has had 500,000 applications for EI, compared to 27,000 a week usually. So obviously a massive increase in the amount of people applying for these EI benefits during this crisis. And we're going to see if the system holds up and is able to deliver. And there is more, as I kind of outlined in the initial breakdown. There's a top-up GST credit for individuals and families with low and modest incomes. Tax filing deadline extended to June 1st. So this is a tax credit. Those who owe money will have until the end of August to pay. Eligible small business receive. Yeah, I read that already. So tax filing is now June 1st, and there is a GST credit for people that have low and modest incomes. So that is another piece of it. I know, like, this stuff gets complicated because there's layers to all of it. But if you go to also Canada.ca, you go to their COVID link, and it also breaks all this down in a way where you can actually click the links and apply if you need to. There's also this piece, important. Trudeau says the government will provide $305 million for Indigenous Community Support Fund to address immediate needs in First Nations, Inuit, and Métis Nations communities. Will also boost the Canada Child Benefit for families with young children in the coming months. I think there's one more. I think I mentioned this earlier. Mortgage payment deferrals. Canada's big six banks will allow mortgage payment deferrals for up to 6 months to help customers struggling amid the economic downturn. So again, that's good, but nothing for renters, which is a lot of freaking people, myself included. Luckily, the kind of business I run, I can work from home, obviously. So it's not like I'm not worried for myself. I'm worried for everybody else that have rent payments. And if you're out of a job, and maybe in many cases these benefits don't go far enough, it's going to be hard to pay your rent, especially like you'll have landlords here not having to pay their mortgage, but at the same time still collecting rent from tenants. There's got to be some kind of response here to people that rent. It only makes sense. But that essentially is the comparison. I know I went a little deeper on the Canada side, but I just want to show Americans what we're doing right now, as my audience is largely American. So I wanted to show you the comparison there. And I mean, I would argue Canada's doing a lot more. And there definitely, I think, is room for, and this is not even including the fact that healthcare is already guaranteed to us. We don't have to worry about healthcare at all in terms of cost. That said, of course, it's always hard to be able to counter a crisis like this when there are only a limited number of hospital beds. But that happens in any system. So regardless of system, like Italy right now, the issue isn't that they have a universal system. The issue is that they did not react to the pandemic fast enough to be able to keep up with it, which is why lowering the curve is what keeps getting discussed, is because by staying in and preventing the virus from spreading further, you prevent everybody from needing those beds all at the same time, and you kind of stretch it out. All right. My throat's dry. It's not hurting, in case anybody noticed. But I definitely need a rest. I just think I need some air. I will grab the last super chats that are in now that I haven't seen. The Absolute Wanderer says, do you think food processing plants will keep going after 30 days? They're going to have to. Otherwise, we're all dead. So I hope they do. I know that, they got to have some kind of process in place where they're separating people and making sure that people that work there aren't getting sick. But if we don't have food, I'm not sure what we're going to do. Ismark says, oh no, 45 is a forced socialist, in a joking way. Took a pandemic, now Bernie, he points to no unworthy Americans. That sentence made no sense to me. But I appreciate the support. Thank you. Aspie for Peace says, Wednesday Doug Ford is going to help people on ODSP. All right. Yeah, that's another piece of this that I didn't really get into because there's too much to mention. There's also state by state what's happening. And province by province in Canada, what's happening. So that's also another added layer on top of all of this other stuff that's happening at the federal level. So there's a lot really to kind of digest. And every day, at least in Canada, I know I'm seeing in the US as well, every day there's a new press conference, something else announced, something else being done. So this is a situation that's always evolving, and it's kind of hard to keep up with it unless you are paying attention to the news and are online every day and kind of checking it out, seeing what's going on. I think I heard another super chat. Matt W. says a real livable UBI would be a lot easier to administer quickly and be much more effective. Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Having all, as you saw, the Canada plan is very layered and complicated. Having some sort of livable UBI and then just tax people at the end of the year. So, if you didn't need the UBI, well, you get it back. I think would make a lot more sense. But this is what they're going with right now. It tends to be the neoliberal ways to means test everything. But I agree with you. A UBI right now, including and added to that would be a moratorium on rent, on mortgage, on utilities, on any kind of bill payment that people are having issues with. And really the money should be directed towards food and entertainment to keep people sane during this time. All right, I think that's it. As I said, apologies for the shorter stream. I'm not feeling the greatest. I just have been inside all week. I need some air. But I appreciate you all. Thank you for coming. Maybe I'll be on Twitch this weekend. I don't know. Maybe. We will see. But see you later.